Hello students, welcome to week 1 for COM 505 Advanced Communication Theory. This week we will be going over communication perspectives as well as exploring concepts of communication theory within our course. I'll also be providing you with an introduction to the course and some things to expect. Like I said, my name is Dr. Sandra Romo. I am the Program Director for the Master of Arts in Communication program. So if this is your first term with us here at CBU or you have not had a course with me yet, I am the lead faculty member over the Masters in Communication program. I will be providing you with direct oversight and provide direct oversight to all faculty that teach within the program, as well as leading you in your capstone assignment that you will complete at the end of the term. So with that, I've just put some pictures up here to kind of introduce myself to you for those of you that don't know me, or for those of you that do. Here are some new pictures for you to get to know me with. The picture up in the top corner is of myself and my husband Mark. We've been married for over 12 years. We have 2 children, which you'll see diagonally below. Nicholas, who is almost 11, and Emma, who's 9. You'll see across from them my dog Jack. He is almost 2 and he's just a little light of bundle of joy in our life. I put in the middle a picture of students from our cohort, our most recent cohort of MA communication grads in the spring at our hooding ceremony, which you all will be able to take place in hopefully soon, where we'll meet and get to know each other very well. So that was at their hooding ceremony, as well as in the upper corner a picture of my son's all-star team my husband was the manager of, and they won our particular district, so that was very exciting for them in the past year. So some ways to get in touch with me. Like I said, my name is Dr. Sandra Romo. I am the Program Director over the Masters of Communication program, in addition to the Master in Public Relations program and both undergraduate degrees in Comm and PR. I am an Associate Professor of Communication. My office is located in the Tyler Plaza. My phone number is listed there. My email number is also listed there. The best way to get in touch with me is through email if you want to set up an appointment or chat with me. If you go into Blackboard, you will see the link to our virtual classroom that I'm logged into on Thursdays, so we can meet, and if you'd like to get in touch that way also. Some things to keep in mind. Now, this is just a little brief snippet of an overview of what's expected of you in our course. This is a review of the syllabus, not the actual syllabus that is linked in Blackboard. However, I've pulled out some things that are important for you to know about in the syllabus, because I know sometimes we don't read the syllabus as carefully as we should, or we read through it and then we forget some things. So I wanted to reiterate some things. Any assignment that has a discussion board attached to it has 2 deadlines automatically. The first deadline is on Friday. That's where you'll post your actual assignment, and then you'll spend Friday and Saturday and Sunday posting replies. You must reply at a minimum to be minimally eligible for participation credit to 2 students. It is encouraged, though, at the graduate level that you reply to more than 2 students. However, it's only required for you to reply to 2. So with that, 2 replies are required by Sunday, and the actual assignment is due on Friday if it's a discussion board assignment. Spend some time now looking through the course calendar, and in particularly pay attention to week 8. Week 8 deadlines are different than weeks 1 through 7. In fact, week 8 deadlines are significantly different, as our course always ends on day 5, which is Friday of week 8. So keep that in mind. You will not have assignments due in week 8 on the weekend because the course ends on Friday. So I would do whatever you have to do to remind yourself of that at this point. Put that in your calendar, set a reminder on your phone, set an alarm, whatever it may be, because they are always significantly different. Also, my late work policy. I don't accept late work under any circumstances, and that's a hard, true fact I hold grad students to very, very, very frequently. It is your responsibility as a graduate student to not only be on time with your work, but to be mindful of your deadlines and complete your work in a timely manner. I do know that life happens. However, it's very important to plan ahead and accordingly for situations that could prevent you from submitting work on time. I will work with you if you notify me ahead of time. I will not give you an extension to an assignment, but I will help you come up with a way to submit your assignment early, or provide you with some help that you may need to get that assignment in on time. If you have a work commitment or something like that, well, that will prevent you. You're traveling, you're going to be in the air, you have a baby due, something's going on in your life, that's fine. I will not accept anything after the due date in the course. So whatever the due date is for that assignment, I don't accept that work late. I will not give an extension, but I will help you come up with a plan to submit that work in a timely manner so you can still get credit for it. Weekly video lecture viewing is required. It's embedded into our course and how we complete the coursework, as well as the videos that we watch that help us with our coursework in addition to many different things. Graduate level courses expect that you cite at least the course text as well as 2 outside assignments and all of your work. So when I'm reading through your assignments and I'm looking at how you're critically evaluating and analyzing material and reflecting, the next thing I'm going to do is scroll down to the bottom and see if you have not only the course text, but at least 2 outside sources. So minimally, I'm looking for 3 outside sources at all, 3 sources at all times, 2 of them outside, 1 of them the course text. So keep that in mind. And by an outside source at the graduate level, that means a journal article, that means some type of reputable textbook, things like that. I don't accept blogs. I don't accept Wikipedia. The only time I would accept a news article or a news piece is in a situation where that's warranted for the assignment. You can refer to my lectures as an outside source. That's fine, as long as it's properly cited, or any materials that are posted within the class. Those are supplementary materials that you can also refer to as well outside of the course text. Do know it is expected that you use the course text frequently. This is a theory course. Your Littlejohn and Fox text should become a staple in your life. It should become your communication Bible. It should help you along the way within your program, and you should hold on to it frequently. This course text is not a course text that you want to rent. It is one that you do want to make sure you keep, because you will be using it frequently in other courses. Some things to expect. This is not our course. You are not looking at screenshots of our course. You're looking at screenshots of a sample course for the sake of highlighting some important information. So all of our courses have a read, watch, complete model in terms of how we structure our agendas. It will clearly tell you what you're reading, what you're watching, and what you're completing in a given week within a learning module. All of my lectures will be posted in the My Announcements section on Blackboard. That is located on the home page. The actual lecture, once it is deployed, will be posted there for the entire duration of the course. It will also be emailed to you as well. If it is not viewing in the home page in the My Announcements box when you look at it, that is because it may be over 7 days since it has been posted. You can click the More Announcement link to see it, and they will all be displayed there nicely for you. You will not find my lectures in the weekly modules or anything like that. Rather, they are in the announcements section, posted as an announcement in a clear and easy format for you to find. And that way you can get it via email also. If you are unfamiliar with how to access feedback from me, maybe you haven't had a course with me, maybe you're new to the program, which is totally okay and acceptable, your grade book will look like it does in number 1. So to view instructor feedback, if you have any notes from me on an assignment, it will look like a little thought bubble. You'll click that and it will pop up. I also encourage you to access the rubric. What you'll do is the rubric will be listed underneath the assignment title. Click View Rubric. Any feedback I've embedded within the rubric will be listed there. I will give you this little caveat. So an average score, as we know, is a 70%, somewhere in the 70% range, a C. That means that you have completed the minimum requirements for the assignment. Anything that is above and beyond the minimum requirements will get you into the 80%, and if it's even beyond that, will get you into the 90%, the excellent range. So keep that in mind. When I'm applying feedback, I save the most important and most valid and most stringent feedback for those that are subpar, meaning scoring below the minimum requirement. So if you get a 95%, you're going to notice that I'm not going to say a lot in the feedback, because you are already above by 25% that minimum requirement of being average and meeting the minimum requirement for the course. You've scored above 25% of what was expected of you, which is excellent. You should feel very proud of that. And so with that, I just want to keep that in mind as you work through that. Now with graduate work, I tend to provide a little more feedback on things to everybody in the beginning rather than those that are subpar or those that need more feedback because of the scores on their assignment. So you will see something from me, but I'm just letting you know I will say something to you. I will give you some food for thought, some things that I'm looking for, some things that can make your paper stronger. But in terms of trying to reach that 100%, I'm not saying that that's impossible. I'm just saying that that's very, very difficult when the minimum expectation of you is to score 70% if you met all of the assignment requirements. So do keep that in mind. As we move through, the week 1 agenda is listed here. You are reading chapters 1 and 2 of our course text. You're also reading 2 attached PDFs in the week 1 module. They're both related to Robert Craig's thoughts on communication theory as a field, and then his reflections on that. You'll find that this is a very interesting piece of information from Craig. There are some ideas related to this within our discipline or field, which one you would prefer to say that as. In communication, NCA, the National Communication Association, hovers around the idea of going back and forth on their thoughts from a scholarly perspective on if communication is a discipline or a field of study within academia. We're going to spend some time talking about that this week. I don't expect you to master this at this point at all. I'm only asking you from a scholarly perspective at a graduate level to start opening your eyes to this conversation of it. So we're going to read those things. We're going to watch some videos on communication theory, mapping the theory, providing an overview of communication and how we look at it from a systems perspective. We have discussion board number 1 due on Friday and with replies due on Sunday, as well as our Craig article review due on Sunday. So our goals and objectives for the week are as follows. We're completing 4 things this week. I want you to share perspectives on the debate of communication as a field or discipline. I want you to explore and reflect on definitions of communication. I want you to discuss traditions and paradigms of communication theory, as well as create a definition of communication studies and be able to articulate that definition to each other. With that, our objectives for the week align to objectives 1.1 through 1.2, 3.1, and 3.2 within the course. Discussion number 1 asks you to create some type of visual presentation of your definition of the field of communication studies. I listed here that it should be a YouTube, a screencast-o-matic presentation, or a VoiceThread. If you want it to be a Vimeo or something else that you found particularly interesting, that's fine, as long as it includes either a video of you in that or your voice recording of it. So those 3 things that I've selected for you here are the easiest ways to do that. You need to have a clear definition of the field of communication studies in your presentation. I want a purpose for communication theory in there. I want you to explain the validity of communication theory within research. I want you to share how comm theory may contribute to Christian worldview perspectives and sharing the gospel with others, as well as including your voice and commentary of the presentation. After that, in your discussion board link, I want you to, so in your thread, I want you to put a link to your presentation, and then I want a 500-word reflection that explains the premise of your presentation and what we need to know about your presentation and your thoughts about what was accomplished in your presentation. So there's twofold there. Once you've done that, then you will reply to at least 2 other students by Sunday. If you have any questions with that, let me know. I'm more than willing to go over it with you again and help point out some interesting points for you in that particular assignment. The Craig article review assignment is simply that. You're going to read those 2 Craig articles that are posted in the agenda and with the assignment in Blackboard. As I mentioned, comm scholars frequently and regularly debate on the position of comm theory as an academic field or discipline. This determination has really driven the position of comm studies in many different ways within higher ed institutions. Really, as grad students, you should be able to consider your own position within academia related to this topic. I want you to look at Robert Craig's information and what he has said about comm theory and provide your own personal perspective on his thoughts about communication being a field or a discipline. So I want you to complete the following after you've read both papers. Provide at least 2 outside sources that support your thoughts about communication studies as a field or discipline. But I want you to also review the major concepts of each article and describe Craig's primary contentions he makes in each article, each paper we have posted in Blackboard, as well as analyze the strengths and weaknesses of his argument, as well as comment on if you feel his arguments is integrated into what you know about communication or communication theory, and then construct and defend your own opinion about comm theory as a field or discipline. So what I'm really looking for here is I'm looking for you to provide the major concepts of each paper. Give me an overview of what Craig's telling us. You've read both of these pieces. What is he telling us? What are his primary arguments and contentions? Analyze them. Tell me what their strengths and weaknesses are. Comment on what you think about it and tell me what you already know about communication studies to support his arguments or to refute them. And then construct and defend your own opinion on what you think about it. Do you think it's a field or do you not think it's a field? And that is completely up to you. I want you to use your own scholarly insight and information to come up with a great idea related to this. I'm not looking for a right or wrong answer here. There is actually not a right or wrong answer here. Depending on which professor you ask in this program, we're all going to have very different perspectives on it. Some of us are going to say, yes, it's a field, and here's why. And others of us are going to say, this is a discipline, and this is why. So there's not a right or wrong answer. I want you to come up with your own answer and where you decide you lie on each side of the fence in this debate within communication. Remember, I'm looking for 3 sources at a minimum. 2 of them are outside sources, in addition to the sources you use for this text. You read for this assignment. So your paper will be about 4 pages. There's 4 things you need to do, so each of those things should be about 4 pages. The page count, should be about a page to total 4 pages in its entirety. The page count does not include the cover page, reference page, or abstract, because this is incomplete APA. That's a 4-page page count for the actual written work. So keep that in mind. If you get really confused and hung up on the Craig article review and you're reading through this stuff and you're just not quite sure what to think of it, email me. We can get in touch, we can chat about it, and we can make sure that you really clearly understand what's expected of you from that perspective. Here are some of my scholarly thoughts about Craig. Well, not mine, but just some general overview thoughts about it. Craig attempted to determine if communication was a field or a discipline in '99. At that time, he concluded saying he couldn't make that determination. It wasn't possible. He just said, I'm not quite sure where we're at yet. So he said, since I can't determine if it's a field, I'm going to say it's a discipline, but we're moving towards a field. However, he contradicted himself by saying it's a field in 2009, but it functions as a discipline, even confusing the scholarly debate even further by saying, yes, we're a field, but we're functioning as a discipline 10 years later. Still left it to be this great debate and not really solidified on what scholars think about the field from that perspective. So with that, the debate is still heavily contested among scholars to this date. Communication, yes, is interdisciplinary. Yes, it is dependent in nature, and yes, it is interwoven into every other aspect of scholarly pursuit. However, if everybody is dependent on us, then think about how that functions with who we are as a field or a discipline and what that means. So sociology, math, leadership, education, psychology, business, everything relies on some aspect of communication to function as an academic organization or a professional organization. Think about how that impacts your thoughts about communication studies from a broad perspective. Loosely defined, we need to know that communication is a process by which individuals create and share communication through rituals to maintain, sustain, and manage meaning. So we are saying that communication is a process where individuals create and share meaning through rituals to maintain, sustain, and manage that meaning within a given society or group. Communication theories are organized into traditions and context. Traditions consider that communication theories are organized by a specific tradition. There's 7 in total: socio-psychological, sociocultural, phenomenology, critical, rhetorical, cybernetic, and semiotic. And then the contexts get into the way that they kind of pan out within that. Communication is viewed as linear, meaning it can take place across a line. That's the transmission view of communication, and that there are 2 fixed points of a sender and a receiver, and the view focuses on the transmission of communication rather than anything else. So the transmission view thinks of communication as being linear. It all takes place across this line. It has a sender and a receiver, and anything we need to say or think about communication goes across that line. Well, ritualistic view of communication is a little different. It tells us, hey, you know what? That's great. Communication, we know, it takes place on a line. There's a transmission involved. However, communication is more than that. It's not viewed as a transmission or impartation of messages, but rather it's about coming and arriving at a shared belief, and communication focuses on the ritual experiences afforded through that process. These 2 views set the framework for what we know of many different communication theories, especially what we're going to provide and look at this term. Particularly, contextual perspectives of communication theories organize context in many different ways, and you'll see that here. There are 8 contexts in which communication theory typically is organized within: culture, society, communicator, message, conversation, relation, group, media. Within those contexts, we then classify them by traditions, which I spoke about already, the socio-psychological, socio-cultural, so on and so forth. So it's important to know that as we organize communication theory, scholars are agree upon it very much so in the way that we look at communication from that perspective. So it's very, very important to keep that in mind. As we move into the course later on and within the term, we'll spend some more time looking at the transmission view and the ritualistic view of communication. However, just to highlight that frequently is that transmission looks at communication taking place between two fixed points with the sender and ending with the receiver, much like you would see a number line in math, whereas ritualistic communication doesn't focus on how that communication is sent or received, but rather looks at the impartation of the message, creating and sharing meaning between one another, which is very important and interesting to think about from those perspectives. So as we wrap things up, do keep in mind we're reading chapter 1 and 2 this week. We're reading 2 scholarly articles related to Craig's thoughts on communication theory as a field or a discipline. We're watching a number of videos related to that as well. We are completing discussion board number 1 on Friday with replies due on Sunday, as well as Craig article review, which is due on Sunday. I look forward to interacting with you this week. Do keep in mind I typically take the weekends off, meaning I am not as active in terms of replying to you on Saturday and Sunday. So if you have particular assignment related questions, I would encourage you to reach out Monday through Friday. Not that I will not get back to you on the weekend. I do make a point to try to do that, but I'm not as active with that as I do try to reserve that time for Sunday and some Sabbath and time to just kind of relax and spend it with my family. I pray you all have a blessed week, and I look forward to interacting with you this term.